The Kansas City Chiefs saddle the Broncos in Arrowhead to take another game against the AFC West with one remaining in the season and one marquee game to come on Monday Night Football. They're very tuned into this performance and how they got the W. We're going to cover it all with Matt and Derek live from Arrowhead Stadium here on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. It is a victory, however hard-earned it was. We'll go over all the details and the fallout from it live. From the stadium is Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. Check him out and the site. We're brought to you by Ultimate Football GM. That is a brand new game that you want to check out. It's at ultimate-gm.com. You can look it up and use our code LOCKEDON to get a free 100% boost in any game. It is worth your time. A lot going on here. Everything comes down to these last couple of games. They had to get something done. They had to get the W, and that's really the bottom line in this entire thing. How it went was not exactly what we expected, but he's Matt Derrick from Chiefs Digest. He's Chris Clark. I'm Ryan Tracy. Let's get into it, Matt. Is this a good enough performance to just chalk it up and move on, see what happens tomorrow night?
I mean, it's kind of a broken record, but I think you probably hit it right off the top, which is that a win's a win at this point in the season. You take it and you move on. Was it as pretty as you wanted? Certainly not. There was nothing particularly pretty about this game. There were a lot of things that you could criticize. But, with not knowing exactly what kind of a team you're going to see in the Broncos this week with all the changes that were going on in Denver. And, we talked about the other day, that when a cloud gets lifted over a team like the Broncos have had this season, it can change things for the better. And I think you saw that. My question was whether the Broncos were going to come into this game with any fight. They had it. This was clearly not a team that had given up. There were a lot of players out there, and you saw them leaving their emotions on the field, I thought. And they were fighting the Chiefs for once and not each other. So that was a good step forward for the Broncos. But you just never know. And hey, the Broncos came in. I think that once again, they gave the Chiefs their best punch. It wasn't good enough. Are there reasons for the Chiefs to be concerned? Absolutely. Too many mistakes, special teams miscues, getting you again. Those are things you just can't have. And if you clean those things up, this is a very different ballgame. But today they weren't clean, and that was the issue.
I think it's difficult for some teams to make sure that they can stay clean, especially given what's going on with this particular matchup. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for making us your first listen here live after the ball game. Check out another Locked On show for your next one, because this is Locked On. It's your team every day for free on every platform. It's tough. This is win 15 in a row against the Broncos, Matt. Difficult when you know that kind of matchup to keep yourself focused. Talked about it all week that they had to find the fire because the Broncos were going to do that. They reacted pretty well. Chris, what stood out to you in what they did well in reacting to what they got from Denver?
I think that at times the offense looked very good. I think that they were able to move the ball the way they wanted to move the ball. I think, Patrick talked about it, at least from what I saw in the pressers after the game. He got away from his mechanics in the second half, and it really killed him. They go, 3 and outs in a row, 7 straight incompletions, I think, for Patrick at one point. You cannot have that in a game like this, because that's when you're going to go put the team away. They really could have extended themselves from Denver and made it to where this game wasn't going to be close if they can connect on at least 1 or 2 of those drives. And, you look at what Mahomes was able to do throughout the day. He had almost 70 yards to Kadarius Toney on 3 catches. One was a small pop pass, so basically 2 catches for 65 yards. Toney looked really good catching the ball. Unfortunately, he puts the ball on the ground on a punt return. Penalties aside, the turnovers are going to be what's going to kill this team. And again, it came back to bite him today.
And my question, and I think it's a legitimate question, even though Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes with us, downplayed it significantly. I don't think you can ignore the fact, though, that Patrick Mahomes opened the game 9 of 9. He was absolutely on fire and looked like absolutely completely on point. And then on that 3rd and 1, attempting to get it to Kelsey, he kind of gets tangled up in a pile, comes up, was very gimpy, was slow to get up off the ground first, and then limped to the sideline. Didn't go get any treatment or anything of that nature, but went to the bench and came back in the game. And Andy Reid said, he wasn't he was concerned at first when he saw the hit and he saw him limping, but afterwards they weren't too concerned and didn't feel like that anything affected his performance. And Mahomes said the same thing. But our eyes don't lie. that we saw things, especially in the second half, that you don't normally see from Patrick Mahomes. He wasn't moving, I thought, as well as he usually does. I mean, he doesn't have the scramble yardage, and when he was trying to step up in the pocket, he was clearly trying not to run. He was wanting to get rid of the football in some way. And the other thing that we never see Patrick Mahomes do is leave deep balls short. And he left 2 or 3 of them short.
Multiple.
And he can say that his footwork got away from him, and it's not due to an injury of any sort. But you know what? If you're hurting and you're favoring one foot over the other and you're throwing off your back foot, it is doing that. So, like I said, we have to take him at face value for what Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes both said to us. But the numbers and the video don't lie. There was something different about Mahomes after the first 9 passes. And whatever it was, whether it was mental or physical, you can only hope that it's not going to be an issue going forward.
Well, in the interception, it was after that play, and he left that ball way short, left it way outside of where it should have been thrown, and didn't throw it quick enough. I mean, the decision-making was a little bit off on it as well, but Justin Watson was open. Whether or not he catches it, that's a whole other argument that we can have, but he was open on that play. So, footwork's got to get cleaned up, or if it's an injury, then that it is what it is. He played through it. He ended up going for over 300 yards, which he didn't do against the Broncos the last time. Second time in his career, he's over 5,000 passing yards. That's a pretty big deal. And next week, he has a chance to break Peyton Manning's all-time yardage number if he has a good game against the Raiders, which I'm kind of guessing he will.
And if we want to talk about, because I always talk about how we grade Mahomes on a curve, we're talking about critiquing a performance here where, yes, he goes over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, if this was a subpar for performance for your quarterback, the Las Vegas Raiders would take that and take it to the bank 17 times a season right now. So we're grading on a ridiculous curve just because he wasn't the normal Mahomes we normally expect. But you know what? If you're going to win a Super Bowl, you got to have Super Mahomes.
Well, you got to take care of the ball. Sorry, that's all I was going to say.
No, I'm completely with you. You got to take care of the ball, and that seems to be the way that comes down. At the end of the day, that's what it accounts for. He got some help. He had some issues as well. I think a number of things on the defensive side came together as well, and we got to talk about special teams. We'll do that after we tell you about some of our pals.
And I'm going to tell you about our Ultimate Football GM friends. I'm really geeked out by our new partner and sponsor of today's episodes, the mobile game Ultimate Football GM. This game is really cool. I've really enjoyed playing it. You need to make sure you check it out. If you've ever dreamed of becoming an NFL GM and managing your football franchise, well, your dream can come true, and this game is definitely for you. Manage every strategic aspect of your team, play through the season, and lead your team to glory. You're responsible for hiring the right coaches and coordinators, trading players, making draft picks, navigating your franchise through free agency and the draft, and all the ups and downs of a season. All this in a challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Football GM is completely free and playable offline, play on the go as you want and when you want to. Locked On Chiefs listeners get a free 100% boost to their franchise when using the promo code Locked On in all caps in the game store. That's Locked On in all caps. So make sure to check it out today. To download the game, just visit ultimate-gm.com or look it up on the app stores. That's ultimate-gm.com. Ultimate Football GM. Start your dynasty today.
I want to start a dynasty, and it starts with Patrick Mahomes. He's got to have pass catchers, though. Obviously, Travis Kelce looks to be himself. Juju had a slow start, but got there, Matt. We talked about Tony. Skyy Moore came away with an injury late and did have a drop. But I was intrigued by his performance today. What did you take away from it?
Yeah, I mean, I really like those kind of tunnel screens that they have built in for Skyy Moore, and certainly, using him in the jet sweep and the motion game, I think is really a good place for him. Especially it's been helpful with him being able to do that with Hardman out. And when you see Tony coming back, you got another guy that can do that. But, with Skyy, once again, I mean, it was kind of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I mean, that was such a bad drop on that catch because receivers just aren't going to get that open very often. And maybe there's a little something off the ball. I mean, hey, the light, I mean, there could have been a lot of other things going on there, but just need to see more consistency from Skyy Moore. And I think it's there. I think he will get there. But at this point, I mean, if I love getting Skyy Moore involved in the short passing game, especially if you can get the ball to him in space, just beyond the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage, it's the deeper game that his route running and his pass catching still needs some work. But I like I said, I mean, I feel a lot better about Skyy Moore for the future in those areas than I do for right now. But he's got a role on this team. He's carved it out pretty well, and he's been pretty good at that role.
And I will say, I want to go back and I want to see the all 22 on that specific play, because it sure looked like to me he was wide open. There was no reason for the ball to be at almost his feet. And I know he dropped it, don't get me wrong, but it sure looked like he was probably running a different route. I don't think he was sitting down, and he came back trying to get the ball. So, yeah, he dropped the ball, whatever, but I think Mahomes probably missed him a little bit there too. But would have to see the all 22 to see it. The thing I did like is, as you said, Matt, they got him involved in the offense. They got him doing things that he's very good at. My problem is they went away from it. They got him involved early, and then he basically sat on the bench for a quarter and a half, it seemed like. And then they got him back involved again, and he got injured and was out of the game the rest of the game a little bit later. To me, they need to be more consistent getting him in the game and getting him involved, because to me, I think that he gives you a weapon that can be a guy that can be a threat at times with what he's able to do when he gets the ball in his hands. And that's exactly what you need on this team.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring that up, because you talk about getting away from things. One thing that the Chiefs kind of got away from was the run game, and I know what Andy Reid would probably say. He didn't get asked that specific question in the post game about getting away from the run. I'm sure he would say, "Hey, those jet sweeps, those screens, they're part of the run game too." So he would include that. But you have, I think, 12 designed runs in this game, and you're throwing the ball over 40 times. That's not a 60-40 kind of Andy Reid mix that you're looking for. I mean, it was pretty one-sided today. And I don't really have a good explanation or a reason why it went that direction. I mean, they certainly, I thought they were running the ball effectively early, and then they just completely got away from it. There was a stretch of, I think I counted 21 plays. I think there were 20 passes in there. Another run and another pass, I think, were nullified by a penalty. I don't really get that. I mean, that's just, to me, you get away on your play sheet sometimes. And I think that this was probably, you could say that this, we talk about critiquing this game for the players, and maybe this wasn't as sharp of a game for the players and the team as well. I'd say for the coaches, because I'm not sure it was a great called game either.
Well, at one point it was, I think it was 10 minutes left. It was 29 throws and 7 runs. Yeah, I completely agree with you. I was going to let it go, so thank you for bringing it up for me. But part of that is you have Pacheco in the backfield as a rookie. You have Skyy Moore, we talked about, as a rookie. On the offensive side, I think they're making contributions. We're always looking for more there. On the defensive side, they're being relied upon. I thought George Karlaftis had another solid game. I wouldn't say that he took a step forward, but I'd say he maintained what we've seen from him the last month or so, and that is an uptick. Brian Cook had a couple of nice plays today, had a PBU, probably would have had another if it wasn't for a penalty. The interesting part to me is I think what we saw with L'Jarius Sneed being easily the second best defender on this roster in terms of my opinion. When he went out, it was 3 rookies at corner for a while. Cook was playing snaps in the dime. 4 out of 6 DBs were rookies. There's obviously penalties. We can talk about Josh Williams till the cows come home. Maybe we'll do that later in the week, Matt. But overall, withstanding a veteran like Russ Wilson, having all those rookies out there, does that have you feeling optimistic about where this team is going, or concerned, Matt?
I can honestly make a compelling case both ways. I mean, for the glass half full of folks, I mean, the defense did its job today. I mean, the Broncos had just over 300 yards. I mean, there was not the average 4.7 yards of play. That's not a big deal. The reason this was a close game was the offensive turnovers. The defense itself caused a couple of turnovers, a couple of key ones, as a matter of fact. I mean, that one right before the half was a pretty big turnover. I mean, that certainly may have saved some points one way, and it set the Chiefs up to, that if they had gotten a field goal out of that, it could have helped them out quite a bit. So the defense, I think, is doing its job. It's getting there. However, if you want to look at this glass being half empty, it's kind of a common theme that we've been talking about of late, is that Steve Spagnuolo is still trying to figure out what kind of a team he has and what rotation he has. And we're still seeing it. We're still seeing the rotation at linebacker. I think they have figured it out for the most part up front, and they've got a pretty good rotation, and they're pretty comfortable with what they're doing, first, second, and third down on the front 4. But on the back end, once again today, Jalen Watson steps in, and now he was playing the third corner today, ahead of Joshua Williams, who's been doing that for a little while now. I think it's just going back and forth they're still trying to figure out what is their best lineup in each situation. And today was probably a good example too, because they were, as I think you noted, Ryan, on Twitter, they were doing some things interesting with Snead and McDuffie early in this game as far as how they were attacking these Broncos receivers. So they're still trying to figure out, who are the best corners in specific situations. So even though it's easy to say, hey, yeah, it's Snead, it's McDuffie, Watson or Williams is in there, that's, they're still trying to figure out which one they want in each spot and, who they want them going up against. They're still kind of figuring that in the secondary, even though, once again, the rotation is there. It's just, how much is Brian Cook going to play? Does he need to be on the field more, or does he need to be on the field less? Do they need to go with 3 linebackers more often? And if that's the case, is it going to be Darius Harris, or is it going to be Willie Gay? Do you try and manage Willie Gay's snaps to make him more effective? They are still working on all those pieces. And yeah, you would like for them to be done with this by week 17, but they're not. And a big part of it, certainly, we've talked about the injuries, the suspensions. A lot of things have kept them from having their entire defense on the field at the same time and being able to figure that out. So that's the only concern to me, is that they're still trying to figure out who they are. But I don't see how you can't look at the last few weeks and see that this defense is at least trending in the right direction.
Well, I think they're trending in the right direction, and I've really liked what I saw from Snead and McDuffie early in the game. I saw Snead going outside, McDuffie going inside. You start playing him at slot corner, and that changes what you do on defense. It changes what Snead's going to do, obviously, and how he's going to play. But it gives you versatility, and I think that's going to be huge and key going into the playoffs. And that's something I love seeing. I think that's very smart for Kansas City to work on those things in game scenarios like this. And I was surprised it was Watson out there, not Williams. I thought Williams has played well for the most part. Yeah, he's still going to get some penalties and hands to the face. He's got to work on that. But he still is pretty good in coverage, in my opinion. I think he's playing better than you would expect him to. And the thing is like you said, Matt, you have 4 rookies playing on the backside of this defense. You got 6 DBs on the field. 4 of them are rookies. You have to feel very good about them. Obviously, for what they're doing right now, you have to feel good about them right now, but you got to feel great about them going into 2023, because they're in a great scenario to have all 3 of those guys back, and hopefully Snead as well, and going in with a very strong young secondary next year.
If you're a Chiefs fan right now, when was the last time you went into an offseason knowing who your top 3 corners were going to be next year, much less your top 4? This hasn't happened in Kansas City in a while. So that's a great position to be in.
It is. And plays of the day were a couple. We'll talk about those, as well as who gets our game balls coming up after this.
And I'm going to tell you about our friends over at Built Bar as Ryan decides he wants to put his little Built Bar up there. Looking for a delicious treat and don't want all the fat and calories, that you've got to try a Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, and I know my goal is to eat a little bit healthier this year. If you're like me, where you want to eat healthier, but you don't want to compromise taste, then, man, you've got to do the thing for you. You've got to try a Built. With Built, healthy is actually tasty. Seriously, they are so delicious, you won't think they're good for you. Perfect for your New Year's resolution. They are absolutely delicious. What makes Built Bars so good? Well, for starters, they're 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And now you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built Bars at Built.com. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club as well. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today. Walk to the pharmacy section and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up 4-bar box, cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. If you're close to Sam's, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie, batter, and churro. You can thank me later. All right.
Thank you now, and I'm just going to leave this here just 'cause it looks good.
Fair enough. They're delicious, and Ryan always has his kids stealing his. I'm lucky. I can. My daughter usually stays out of my office, so I don't have to worry about it too much. But
I think what stood out as well is, for as much as, like Matt, you were alluding to it earlier, when we're talking about a nearly 70% completion day from Mahomes and 3 touchdowns and 300+ yards, and we're complaining a little bit. It shows you where we are as a media personality as well as a fan base. But there are takeaways, plays that stand out. For me, it was very clear the play of the day was Trent McDuffie. He had a heck of a game. This was the culmination of a slightly delayed season for me, but it was that the one complaint about him is he doesn't produce turnovers. Well, it wasn't a takeaway as an interception, but he did produce turnover. And I think that was really the evolution for me. Now that we can say that we have a true cornerback duo in Kansas City that we can look forward to. Is there any plays beyond that, or is that the play of the day to you?
That was a pretty big one. I mean, I definitely thought that stemming, the Broncos' momentum there, and you're talking about positive plays. I mean, there were plenty of plays of the day that were probably on the negative side that did not go the Chiefs' direction, but that was a big one. I mean, and I think all of the quarterback sacks for the Colin Saunders could have been very big if he didn't have the penalty immediately thereafter. But Chris Jones closing it out with the sack on Russell Wilson, that was a big one.
I'm curious. When are they going to start calling the ball dead? It sure looked like they were going to cause Jones or Saunders or whoever was hitting the QB to get a penalty for throwing him to the ground, and that really bothered me.
I asked Chris Jones about what was going through his mind on that last sack, and whether it was going to be ruled a sack or an incomplete pass, and and he pontificated going back to a play earlier in the game where he had Russell Wilson wrapped up, and he felt like that the officials didn't blow the play dead. And he went and asked him specifically about what point are you going to, blow it so that, he's not in the situation where he's going to be taking the quarterback to the ground and then getting penalized for that. Yeah. So, yeah, it was definitely a topic amongst the defensive line because they did feel that was an area today where this officiating crew kind of let the quarterbacks play a little bit. And yeah, and Chris, if you have not heard it or seen it, you might want to catch his last answer at today's press conference, because his talking about gently laying Russell Wilson to the ground on that last play was Chris Jones in his rarest of forms.
I think I saw the quote. I didn't see the actual, so I'm going to have to go listen to it. Thank you.
It's all in the delivery. You got to go check that out. I know I'm going to have to. That brings us to game balls. You can guess. Matt, you are the guest, so you get first pick. Who stood out to you today? Who gets your game ball?
Hey, I'm going to go once again with the quarterback of this defense, Nick Bolton. 10 tackles again on the day. Seemed to be everywhere. He was moving around even after he came off the field for that one play where it looked like maybe they might be losing him. And I think he could have been justifiably very concerned at that point. But he comes back out there and doesn't seem to miss a beat. It's what the guy does. And unfortunately, a penalty took away an interception that he would have had two. Big day. I mean, but Nick Bolton just keeps piling them up. He's got 165 tackles now in the season. Has a really good chance if everything goes according to plan and the Chiefs play next week of getting the team record for most tackles in a season. So Nick Bolton's having a heck of a season.
Chris, I'll let you have the next one before I go. You're here.
Jerick McKinnon. I think that's where my game ball has to go. Offensively, you could give it to Mahomes every week. I think he played pretty good, but the interception was pretty bad, and he missed some throws that were really pretty bad, which you don't normally see and say with Mahomes. So that's kind of questionable. I did like to see a touchdown to Blake Bell. Just a quick honorable mention there. Thank you, Bell Doser. That was a great play. But I have to give it to Jerick McKinnon. I mean, 2 touchdowns today, continually just making mismatches coming out of the backfield and getting in for what looked like cakewalk touchdowns, like the easiest touchdown you could possibly have. And Juju, thank you for your half block, half box out.
And to Chris's point about Blake Bell real quick, he had a big smile on his face after the game because that was not only the first regular season touchdown catch of his career, and a long career he's had of that, but after the injury this year and him just not really knowing when he was going to get back or if he was going to play this year and all the rehab he went through, that was a pretty big deal for him. So Blake Bell was very, very happy about that touchdown.
Well, and you bring up a good point, Matt. Just in reading the room and locker room post game, is this a team that is relieved that they dodged a bullet and didn't let a lesser team come back and get them? Or is this a team that's just like, we're keeping it close. We're just moving on. Let's go watch Monday Night Football.
It's a good question because I think it was kind of a mix of emotions. I mean, and I don't think that there was, a huge sigh of relief necessarily. I mean, I think there was definitely happiness. I mean, that they felt like, getting a win was a big deal. But I think this was also, more of an emotional game that they expected. I mean, because they weren't sure about what Broncos team was going to show up either. And so I got a sense that there was, some real, satisfaction with the fact that they were able to beat a team that brought a lot of energy to this game and that really tried to make an effort. And the fact that, they didn't get it done. So I think that there was, like I said, I didn't necessarily think it was a sigh of relief, but I think there was some satisfaction that they were able to, kind of deal with the Broncos' energy, and they were able to keep the streak going.
Well, that said, what I'm excited about is it should go to Mahomes because none of this happens. Wins don't happen without Patrick Mahomes on this football team. That's just the way that it goes. But my game ball goes to the guy that I've been waiting on. I've been prognosticating about all season. He finally showed me to be correct. For all of you who doubted me, hey, here's your proof. Trent McDuffie is the real deal. The hits, the turnovers, being able to be the Robin to L'Jarius Sneed's Batman is not just good for now, for this week, for the postseason, but for years to come. It's what you have to have. It's good to see it emerge. So he gets my game ball today.
And just to throw this out there, he had a great play to get that turnover. Congratulations on the sack and strip sack at that. But his hit on Kendall Hinton, he just laid the wood. It was a great hit. It was completely clean. It pissed off Courtland Sutton to no end. But it was clean. I mean, he hit him right in the chest. I mean, I don't know what Sutton was so pissed off about, but it was a clean hit.
I think Courtland Sutton's pissed off about being a Bronco currently. That's
that could be
his lot in life. That's all right. He'll have a chance in free agency. Good luck, Courtland. We have a lot coming for you this week. We'll break down all the details tomorrow. Matt will be back with us midweek, and then we start to look ahead. It is Raiders week very quickly here, folks. Enjoy Monday Night Football. Keep an eye on that. That will determine where the Chiefs play and when they play in the postseason. Thanks for being with us live here. Matt, thanks for taking the time at the stadium to be with us and clue us in. Very much appreciated.
Always a blast. Take care, everybody.
Have a great night. We'll talk to you tomorrow.